of the things that have gotten into the Guinness Book of Records is it's like, you know that Guinness was not there the whole time, like verifying that he was playing all these years.
Yes, she actually sat in on the game while they played. Oh yeah, well throughout the years, but I thought that was kind of cool that she was there and like hung out at the game.
Who is she?
The lady that came and presented him with the plaque, as well as taking down all the information. You know, she the one with the clipboard.
Right, right. But what I'm saying is that like this just seems to be like he's got his name in the Guinness Book of Records by just saying I've been playing this for 43 years. Like what is a
Hmm.
campaign like for other things in the Guinness records, right? There are certain parameters. Like for instance, there is no competitive eating allowed in the Guinness Book of Records. The only competitive eating record you can get is eating baked beans with a toothpick one at a time. They set these parameters, presumably because it is not good for you to try to set records like gorging yourself on food. It can be hazardous to you. And so for something like this, I would imagine that there's no way to verify. Like, first of all, what constitutes a campaign? Because obviously, if he's been playing since 1982, like, I find it hard to believe that his characters are only now hitting level 20. That's a really, really, really slow progression. Most people
No,
can go
no.
from.
As soon as they hit level 20, or they die, or they want to retire, they do. They retire them. They retire their
Right.
characters and they create new ones.
So then that gets into the concept of like, well, if it's not the same characters through the same level progression, and it's obviously not just one plot arc, oh, because you can't have one plot arc that goes that long. So then, in what basically you're just saying that this guy's been playing D&D since 1982 and he's continually done so. It's like, I mean, that's cool,
Hmm.
but I don't know that it's like record worthy,
It's the same
like.
campaign,
But what is a campaign if all of the
same
characters
world.
are gone?
The timeline has progressed since they began. The of the players that are playing with him, that played with him back in the late '80s, are playing the descendants of the characters. Like they've always played descendants or squires, or even other people that have been trained by their previous characters.
Eh,
So it's all everything's in world.
You're,
Wow.
um, to me, something existing in the same world is a setting, not a campaign. A campaign is a combination of the setting, characters, and the plot arc and story that go with it. And so, I mean, it's cool, but it just seems like, again, without any like independent verification, or he's basically just saying, I've just kind of kept doing the same thing in my world for X amount of time, and that's just a matter of his say so. I mean, how do we even know that? I don't.
Hmm.
It just doesn't seem like it's something that should get Guinness Book of Records attention. It's a cool news story, but
Yeah, but what else is when it comes to D&D?
I don't think that Guinness Records cheapen D&D in my estimation. So like, it's not something that should be within the scope of like, why not a Guinness Book of World Records for like, oh, Matt and I have been having the same conversation for 20 something years.
Hmm.
It's like, but I mean, sure, we've just been friends. We just talk about each
But
other
there's
like
people that have
talking.
been having the same conversation for 90 years.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I mean, because really, if you're friends with somebody, that isn't that really what your whole friendship is? It's just one long conversation that
Hmm.
eventually evolves into different things. But that's not what we would call a conversation. It has
Now, if we had the
guardrails.
same conversation about hot dogs for the last 90 years, that might be different.
Right. If there were guardrails on it, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but
And
that's
I don't.
pretty much what this is. It's the same campaign. It's the same story going on.
No, it's not the same story. You just
Yes,
said
it
that
is.
that story resolved itself, and they started a new story just in the same world. And there's not the same
Yeah,
characters.
but
There's
the
not
characters
the.
are they are attached to the previous ones. Like they're always attached to them.
But I guess what I'm saying is that a campaign is not just a setting. It's not just the world in which it exists. It's a story arc and the characters in that story arc,
Yeah, and the
right?
story is still going on.
Okay, it seems like the story's been resolved and that they
It's
started a
like
new
think
story.
it's like thinking of Dune. So when Leto 2 becomes the main character, is that a is that the end of Dune? That's not the same story.
I
And when
mean,
he becomes when he becomes the God Emperor and not really a character anymore.
I don't know whether I don't know enough about the plot of Dune to know whether a central character needs to be the sole agent to resolve the central conflict. But at the very least, I would say that the conflict that's presented at the outset of a campaign, once that is resolved, hopefully in the same setting and hopefully with the same characters, that to me is more anchored in the campaign. So like for instance, even if you changed worlds, if you changed worlds because like let's in intergalactic um campaign of some sort, uh, just leaving one world to another, like they do in Star Wars, for instance,
Mhm.
that has a plot arc for the story. I guess I just think that the story matters more than the setting, and the characters matter more than the setting. And the setting is
Mhm.
important, but once those things, once their character arcs and the plot arcs resolve, then you are on a new campaign, even if it's in the same world with the same history, even if they're the descendants, because now you just have a new cast of characters, right? I feel the same way about soap operas, like they're they they have plot lines, right? They don't have story arcs. They have plot lines,
Mhm.
and though because the presumption of a soap opera is that it is just ongoing, right? Like it's that old Simpsons, that the name of the soap opera in The Simpsons is it never ends. It's 'cause, like cleaning of a
Yeah.
house, it never ends, right? So I mean, I don't know. I guess, sure.
Yeah. Let's see. What does it say? Robert estimates that he has around 30,000 hand painted miniatures from the beginning of the campaign, as well as 60 different players have come through.
See, those are more record worthy to me than the campaign.
Yeah, right.
300 painted minis? Like, fuck, dude. Way to go.
30,000.
Yeah. Oh, what did you say? 30,000?
30,000.
30,000. 30,000.
Yeah.
That's record worthy because it's countable.
30,000
Right?
hand painted miniature
It's
figures.
fucking Jesus, this dude.
Yeah,
I
he
mean, good
has a
for
whole.
him.
They have like my display case back here. Uh, just a tall square uh glass display case that has all the miniatures of the characters that have died in there with
Nice.
their name and their time of death.
Sure. So I guess my question would be, one of the pressing questions I would have is, why did he end it? Like, it's
He's
been
not
going that
ending it.
long. What's that?
He's not ending it.
So he just gets the record because he eclipsed the last guy that had only played
Yeah.
for 42 years or
Yep.
whatever. Okay, I get you.
Exactly. And I
I
think
get
that's why they had to put in the homebrew whatever in there. But also it's because he did change the rules. It's not the longest D&D game.
Yeah.
Uh, it
Well,
is
because
the
that's the thing is like nobody's still playing first edition Dungeons and Dragons. That
mm,
has came and went. And so then if you start getting into changing the editions, then you're really talking about a different
yeah.
campaign. Yeah, homebrew. I get it. It's probably better though. Even playing that long, he probably can just hodgepodge whatever he wants together from a whole smattering of different editions and arrive at something that really works for his group.
Yeah. Andy's a history professor.
That's not
So
surprising at all.
which he really brings into his campaigns. He says, "I was looking at the languages that these PCs know in Japanese, Arabic. He goes really hardcore in the actual like history in places of the world. Jesus, police, calm down.
Something. Fire, police, ambuli.
Okay,
Okay.
but yes, good on you, Robert. Congratulations, and hope you keep going, man. That's fucking awesome. I love that. I love to see that. I was trying to
Yeah.
see because there was something else here. I remember reading. He was talking about oh fuck, what was it? Like how many years in game they've gone through, and now I can't find it. Oh well,
It's got hundreds, I would guess.
I think it was more than that. Like he was
Hmm.
talking about from all the times that they had to continue on, uh, and then with like characters that have played elves, they had to make sure that time went by, that they were able to get older and have children and all that. So he's like, yeah, a long time has gone, and he actually made a those desktop calendars that you can just pull pages off of.
Yeah.
He made one for his world that's up on the wall behind him, behind the DM screen, so he could just be like, "It's this day," and he tears it off for the next game. And I thought that was
This
kind of
sound,
fun.
this sounds more like an arts and crafts project
It
than it does
really
like
is. If you ever see pictures of the full game room that they have there, very arts and craftsy.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine. Can you imagine how much shit you would have if you had all of the stuff from when you first, all of the dice, all of the character sheets, all of the NPC cards, all of the minis, all of the books. Like if you had all of that stuff from when you first started playing D&D, how much shit you would have? You'd have a whole
I'd
like storage unit worth of
I,
shit.
I was just gonna say I'd have to get a storage unit.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
I had to downsize quite a bit just to have all that shit just there on a couple shelves on my wall.
no, I used to have a whole bookshelf full of minis when I lived in Iowa, but I got rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of them.
Yep.
Hundreds of minis. Not 30,000, but, hundreds.
Yeah, I got rid of a lot. I started giving away dice and minis whenever I would play a game in person. I just started giving shit away. It's
Yeah.
like I can't take this back home. Just please take it with you. All right. So, David came up with a pretty good topic for us today.
I'm not surprised.
Uh I think this is a really good one because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. What have we done wrong in the past, and have we actually at least tried to fix it after we knew that we did something wrong? This is a great question. As we sit here and week after week, we try to tell people, no, we suggest trying this, try this. Well, guess what? We're not fucking all knowing. We're not the best either. We get shit wrong all the fucking time. Don't you dare.
No,
Don't you
no.
dare. Don't
I
fucking
fucking do
start.
it. It's the end of episode. What did I ever get wrong? Nothing. See you fucking next week, guys. Bam, I'm on vacay. Nothing. Perfect. Fucking perfect engine of GMing over here.
All right, Mr. Perfect. How about you start us off?
Yeah, I was giving this some thought and trying to kind of distill it down into some broad categories. And the first category could probably broadly just be summed up with making the mistake of not understanding that or let's say learning the hard way that a campaign needs pacing, and that pacing is not something that's player led, right? This is your role as the storyteller, the referee, the adjudicator of scuffles between who gets the last Dorito or whatever. Do not let your players control the pace of the game. Take hints from them about what sort of pace they like, but if you let them govern the pace of the game, they're not thinking about the game, especially if you have new players. They're not thinking about the game in the same progression that you are. They're just enjoying kind of being in the moment. When I was a fledgling DM, what I did is I just allowed the players to kind of dictate the pace. And that meant that if they got caught up in lengthy dialogue exchanges with inconsequential NPCs, if they wanted to spend an hour shopping or putzing around town for no purpose, I just let them. I just go like, oh, it's just, I guess it's a way of saying that I used to be too sandboxy, the antithesis of being someone that railroads the players. And man, that can really crush the energy of your fucking campaign very, very quickly. And it is largely something that comes with age because when you're young, it's not a big, you're having fun playing D&D and it's summer and you don't have any friends. And you got like one friend and you're like, you like D&D, and you're like, come over to my house. And then you're like, yeah, I can sit here and play for 10 hours. That's fine. And I could, and if we don't get through whatever, then we can just kind of pick it up tomorrow because it's summer and I got another 10 hours that I could just do whatever. But when you get a little older and your responsibilities and time constraints start kind of stacking up, you realize how precious every hour of a game that you have is and how much you want to ensure that it is constantly taught with tension and electricity. I was not playing in any of your like I don't think I joined playing any of your games until you've been GMing for 5, 6, 7, 8 years,
Yeah.
and also had some sort of a roadmap as to like how games go. I got thrown into the deep end of the pool by just going like, well, you got a book, figure it out. And so you had encountered me when I had been already GMing 5, 6, 7 years probably.
Mm.
Well, 4 or 5 years, let's say. But I'm sure after 4 or 5 years, I was not nearly as polished as you were, um, because in a roundabout way, I'm sure you learned from my mistakes. That
Hmm.
year one was was much clumsier than by time you had joined the campaign.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is something you struggled with in the early years because I joined after you probably had a little bit of polish. Uh, but I would imagine that you're probably not surprised to learn that this was a big learning curve for me.
No, not at all. Because I think that's almost like it's like a merit badge to get
Hmm.
when you learn pacing. It's just like, there you go, tier one over.
It's
Congratulations.
no, to be clear, it's the lesson was not learning pacing. That's been an ongoing process for me. The
Mm.
lesson was learning that pacing was a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that you need to pace a campaign for some purpose. You can't just let the PCs out of the fucking cage and roaming around like chickens. You got to go, okay, here's some breadcrumbs. You got to go, here's how I gloss over some things and how I kind of just keep pushing the action forward. I had no concept that this was even a thing. It was almost like every single adventure was just like handled in real time. It would be like especially for travel, it would be
Yeah.
like, and then you walk for 15 more minutes, and it's
I
like,
do
and
remember that David would
what do you
have
do? It's like,
during
dude,
travel, he would sometimes roll to see, okay, you guys have been going for click, clack, click, click, clack, an hour. What has been, what are you doing? What would you like to do now? Keep walking. All right, good. Click, 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 clack, 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 clack. Hey, shut up. I know. Thank you, Google. Jesus Christ.
it sounds like you're doing a podcast about Dungeons and Dragons. Would you like some assistance? And
It
no,
just said, it sounds like you're talking about tabletop role playing games. Fuck off, dude. Get out of
oh,
here.
they know.
But yes, David would then he was like every hour that you traveled in game, be like, okay, what would you like to do now? I don't know, man. How much longer we got? You got about 8 hours left. We keep going. All right, maybe we'll roll for a random encounter. Okay, nothing happens. What would you like to do now? It's like, God damn it.
It's no, and if I remember that that was designed to be like, look, I don't want there to be easy victories, right? I want
Yeah,
it to be
no,
kind of a grind. But if you recall back during the times that you were traveling, didn't you just probably picture in your head a completely straight dirt road that just vanished off into the horizon, and on
yes,
either side of you, just completely blank plains that
yep,
extended all the way to the horizon, and that was it. Like
exactly.
I didn't even offer any texture or like anything as to like what the environment looked like or painting a vivid picture. It's like you're just like
Nope.
walking down a hallway.
I
Like,
can tell you because that day was very important to me because it was the first time we encountered the Drow. The Drow, for the listeners, he was our first big bad evil guy. He was the first nemesis, at least that I came across.
he was a lieutenant. He wasn't the big bad evil
Right,
guy, bro.
but he was kind of like our first nemesis.
Yeah.
But I remember encountering him, and I remember the visual that I had in my head because we were traveling when we first encountered him.
Hmm.
And just like you said, I envisioned us on a dirt path surrounded by plains, and that's it. No
And you're like, where'd he
trees, no
come from?
mountains, no
Where could he
nothing.
possibly have been?
Yes. And there was just a drow in front of us at that time. But it didn't bother me at that time. I was just like, oh, the
There's
drow.
something on this road. Finally.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. Did you struggle with this too in the early days? Was it
Dude, oh yeah,
that
real
clumsy,
bad.
or was it? Did you learn
But
from me?
when I first started, I tried to mimic you a lot uh, in the early days because I just thought that's how it was done. I wasn't exactly, but I wasn't as a detailed explainer, like even back to
Explainer.
explainer.
Explaninator. Explaninator.
I didn't know flavor text very well. Uh, and then I went overboard with it for a long time. And now I think I've got a nice basic knowing. But back in those days, like you still had pretty good flavor text. You didn't use it as much as I think you do these days, but you were still pretty good because for the listeners out there, David has always been able to talk for a long time, really well, uninterrupted. And sometimes he can get
Why we
very
started a
flavorful.
podcast, bro.
Yeah. And yeah, but I wasn't that good. I wasn't able to quickly come up with the flavor as quickly back then. But I've learned to do so because in practice I can just recycle shit that I've used over and over, and then what I've seen in movies.
Hmm.
But back then it was, but I didn't do. Oh no! Oh yes, I did. And people, I'm sure that they didn't like it, but I was the same way in travel. I was like, all right, 1 hour down, and I maybe even then back then, no, I didn't, because I was trying to mimic you again. We're still playing AD&D Second Edition, and there wasn't anything for starvation or anything. I didn't even think of a saving throw because there was no saving throws for starvation or anything like that. I don't believe before there was like a Constitution save or anything. Uh, Otherwise, I might have tried something like that at least to cut the
Banality. Yeah.
yeah, with at least a dice roll or something. But yeah, yeah, the
Yeah.
pacing was fucking god awful back then.
That's okay. So that's probably top of my list. Would it be top of your list too, or do you have something else
Now
at the
that I'm
top of your
bringing it
list?
up and it's flooding back in, because I did that, like the travel and the boring parts, I
Hmm.
made stretched out way too long, and then when we got into the story and the cool bits, I tried to rush through it to get to the big bang at the end. So yes, I'm going to say that is in at least my top three,
Yeah.
at least.
Another one that occurred to me is when it comes to characterization of NPCs. This might seem like it's not a huge thing, but until I started studying writing, and you understand that you want to show and not tell whenever possible, in the early days of gaming, I just told the PCs what a character was like.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does, the reason it's a huge problem, I should say, is that it robs a lot of mystique out of the game. And if you're just told what a character is like, then you automatically know what bucket to put them in. And so you go good guy, someone to be saved, someone that's an ally, someone to look up to, someone that's a villain. That ambiguity is the heart of a lot of the tension between PCs and NPCs because the meta narrative of the game is, at least implicitly, you assume that the PCs are your allies. Now,
Mm.
there's some things that might subvert that, but generally speaking, that's a meta narrative, right? You go, these people are in my group. I can think certain, at the very least, I know that they're on my side, which is at least a broad category. That safety shouldn't be offered for all NPCs because it robs the characters, it robs the players of the ability to kind of make up their own minds about the NPCs. And what that does is it robs them of the agency to explore in certain lines of inquiry, certain motives, certain dynamics with the characters. And so it was like directly inverted because this is the opposite of the sandbox approach that I had for exposition, right? It was like, let's just tell the PCs what they ought to think about this person. When it's like that's the perfect time to be more sandboxy and to allow more character richness. I could have taken all of the time with the exposition, the travel, and compressed all of that and used that time to allow the players more flexibility in their relationships with the NPCs in the in
Mm.
the in the game. And I did exactly the opposite. These two things are kind of connected in my mind, where it's like, let's just tell them what to think and feel about a particular character. She needs your help. She is a damsel in distress. This guy is a downtrodden whatever. He is a mentor figure for you. This is a villain. This is an ally. This is a rival. And that is just so hackneyed when I look back on. I mean, I'm trying not to be too hard on myself. I was 12, 13, 14 years
Mm.
old or whatever. But it's a really hackneyed approach. Did you suffer from this particular sickness too?
No, I don't think I did. At least not that I can remember.
Mm,
Whenever I don't even think I was very descriptive at all with NPCs when I first started,
mm.
other than what they looked like and what they were wearing.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of my next point, which as a sub point, I went way too overboard on like describing a character from like he's wearing these kind of boots and then he
Yeah.
has on a tabard and he's wearing chainmail with a longsword at his side and he has long blonde hair and it's like, dude, we don't need an entire fucking diorama, you know, basic utility information. Like from what I can tell, there's basically a few levels of character description. One is utility. So that's the most basic information that a characters would need to know about someone, like what if they're armed, and if so, how they're armed,
Hmm.
right? And so armor, weapons, maybe if they're riding a horse or something distinct like that, as well as something that might communicate their social status, right? This guy's clearly a fisherman. This guy's clearly a soldier. This guy's clearly a noble. Illustrate that. That's utility information. Then you have some information that communicates something about the character's intuitions about an NPC or
Hmm.
any other kind of character, really. That might have to do with what sort of smile they have, what sort of bearing they have, what their tone of voice when they talk. It gives you some sort of textural information about what sort of person they are. Not what type, but what brand. Like, you know, like cola, but Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
right? And then you have minor things that illustrate a little bit of flourish or flair, right? If they have a scar, if they have a particular, um, something that might communicate a history or a particular mannerism that might give you insight into their pathology. Maybe they fidget, maybe they, never make eye contact or whatever. These things all give you instincts as to what sort of character you're dealing with. But when you rob the PCs of the ability to really make up their own minds, then you're not trying to. This bolsters my point, which is like all of those things do some sort of subtextual work to kind of give the PCs information about hints as to what kind of character they're dealing with. But when you just tell them how they should feel, then really the only descriptors that you have are just the physical descriptors and going kind of top to bottom. And she's got wavy red hair and like a curvaceous body. And you're just like,
Hmm.
okay, dude, we don't need all that, right? Like one or two details here is sufficient. And they don't have to be the same for every character. Just because I gave you this character's hair color doesn't mean I need to give you every piece
Hmm.
NPC's hair color or every NPC's, yeah, probably what kind of weapons and what kind of armor and what sort of like general wealth it looks like they have. That's something I should be giving you for every character, but no need to mention the hair color, eye color, height, weight, age of every single character. Like if a character's old, have them behave as if they are wizened and as if they have greater knowledge. And you can splice these in throughout their interactions as opposed to giving them one big info dump uh, of a character's like appearance. So you don't need
Hmm.
that.
Yeah. When I first started DMing for a group, uh, I mimicked David in the way that he did for our NPCs when I first started, which he had like a thing. He started with the age and then he went top down. They are 33 years old, blonde hair, wearing this top, like a gray tunic and black trousers with soft boots. And then
Yeah.
and then if he felt specific, he was wearing a jerkin with gold piping and got into it a little bit more and it's like, okay, blue
Okay.
eyes with a thick mustache. I was like, okay, okay, cool, cool,
Okay.
cool.
Okay. Can I interact with him now?
Yeah.
Are you done? Yeah.
And I would do the same thing. I'd state
It's
their age and then start from the top down. And then
and
yeah, if I needed to, it'd be like a longsword at their hip and
Yeah,
things like that.
it's because I've always been a very process-driven person,
Hmm.
and in particular for mechanics of a game and stuff like that, process is important and does help you. Uh, but I just kind of, ran off the rails there with that particular. So yeah, I thought that the scripter is kind of like a subcategory of telling the PCs what to feel about somebody, because what you're doing is you're trying to be so neutral with the way that you describe him or her.
Mm.
Is that's just stupid. Why try to give the PCs a little bit of a clue? She has a mischievous or flirtatious smile. Like this guy has, strong hands, or that guy has a willowy demeanor or a
Hmm.
stoic bearing or something like this. These are things that are more useful to the players in establishing how they want to interact with somebody, instead of just like literally painting a picture top to bottom from somebody. It strives to be neutral, and in ironically, in your fastidious attention to detail, you rob that character of any flavor or color that they might have had to begin with. So,
One that I will start with is uh, it goes under the blanket of session zeros are important.
mm,
Nonetheless, uh, during that session zero, the one thing that I have learned to that I'm still trying to make sure that I do every time is make sure that the players are on board with the story that you want to tell. With not only the game that you're running, that's totally fine. That can be easily, changed. I don't mind, say, hey, I want to run, a medieval fantasy game. They're like, we've been doing that a long time, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if I came up and in my head, I wanted this game to be a grim, dark game, but everyone else is very lighthearted and they don't want to do grim, dark. They want to do something else. Instead of just diving in and giving the description of this grim, dark world, and then your fighter that has decided to name himself Mr. Fighting McBig Dick, and, is all of a sudden all he wants to do is go drink and and bash heads while making jokes here and there, uh, it can definitely pull you away from, the story that you wanted to tell, and it kind of gets you out of it. At least it does me. As soon as it seems that other people are not really that interested in the world that I'm doing, I kind of lose interest in it. And
hmm
sometimes I do. I start to mold it towards what they're doing, and then I feel just like unfulfilled through it.
hmm
So that would be one of mine that I'm learning to make sure that I'm not trying to jump in. I guess what I should be is don't try to jump to something without making sure that everybody's on board.
yeah, it's good groundwork. It actually segues nicely into the next one that I was going to illuminate. Unless you had like a number two, because I already gave two. So like if you have a number two, then we can kind of go from there.
Uh, I do, but I only came up with three real ones.
Okay. So the next one that, because what you're talking about, from what I understand, is playing into expectations.
Yes.
And playing into expectations is important. But this one that I have is a little bit of a hot take, and maybe even way out of bounds. But over the course of my GMing career, I've found that it does hold true. If you're doing the good work to understand your players' expectations, right? I know what my players want. I really do, either because I've directly asked them or because their preferences over the course of the campaign have played out.
Mm-hmm.
A hard lesson I had to learn is that if you are only giving players what it is they say they want, you are failing. You're Don't do this. Don't listen don't just listen, I should say. I'm not saying don't listen. Don't just listen to what players say they want. There is a whole panoply of fucking things that players want that they would never say, right? Players will hardly ever tell you that they want the game to be more difficult than it is.
Mm.
But challenge level is important. Maybe some players would tell. I would. Cody would tell me your game is too fucking easy. It's stupid. Like, I give me a challenge. So, but no players are going to really rally around you ladling more misery on them. This is just a low level example, but it means that if you're just using your player's sensibilities as a rudder on the ship, you need to do some more work on understanding the dynamics of storytelling and the dynamics of a collaborative effort. Because just as we're always saying that the GM is not your adversary, the GM is also not your friend.
Hmm.
And maybe that's a bit of a hot take. I don't know. But I've learned over the years that if you really are keyed in deeply to what the players want, delivering on expectations is a good starting point, but you need to be have a sharpened sense of when to deviate from that, when to
Mm.
throw the players for a loop. Otherwise, if you only ever deliver on expectations, then the players will never be surprised about anything in your plot. The players will never be challenged. They'll never feel threatened. They'll never feel hopeless. And as a result, their victories will feel less cathartic and heroic. And that's your job, is to set that temperature. And so, like I said, maybe it's autocratic of me, but I just go like, you need to stop only thinking about what it is your players expect you to do and where they think the adventure is going, because that'll get very stale and very boring, like watching the same episode of a sitcom 20 times in a row.
Hmm. Uh, Second one I tried to think of a good way to word this, as it's don't drop the PCs in a situation without at least a little bit of warning, so to say.
Hmm.
I've done this a few times and it's backfired on me like 3 out of 5 times.
Okay.
One of them, like when I did the time travel session that we had, a little bit of a story arc where they went back in time and they did a quantum leap. My whole thing was from quantum leap. They all went into bodies of other characters. So I had
Oh
them,
boy.
I just told them, hey, make level 5 characters. Uh, I got something special coming up, where I should have, maybe did a, kind of like a segue into letting them know, because they
Should have
went
had
hard
Al
in
there
like,
to explain the mission.
kind of, because they went hard into like the background, the backstory of these characters, and they really enjoyed them. And then they realized that they're not playing these characters really, they're playing their characters in different bodies with different abilities. And it turned out okay. They had fun with it, but they were kind of bummed, as after that happened, they actually like went off to find descendants of these people because they really wanted to keep the attachment to it, which was kind of like, oh, okay, that's nice, but wait, not really, because you made these characters and you just want to stay attached to them. What the fuck? Same thing with me throwing a kingdom for them to have, uh, and then it kind of crumbling, me taking it away probably a little too quick, but I wanted it to sting, and that was bad. That was bad of me. That was my bad. Do not give them big, big shiny objects and then just take it away with, again, without at least a little bit of warning, maybe something that they could do to safeguard it for a little bit longer, instead of them going away for a while, coming back and me being, oh, your kingdom was destroyed.
It's a penny saved is a penny earned, kind of. A gold piece saved is a gold piece
Hmm.
earned, and if you take away the gold pieces that the party feels that they have earned, even if because you've falsely given them a sense that they've earned it,
Hmm.
is a bit of a cheap move, unless you're trying to subtextually communicate something about the world, like some sort of easy come, easy go. Um,
No, I wanted
yeah,
them to like feel the way that their characters would, and that was just not a good thing.
it's yeah, that kind of segues into my next point, which is uh, it's you're giving me stuff that is each point that I'm saying kind of piggybacks off the last thing that you said, which is a way of saying that context matters. And the next big mistake that I made was not understanding that context matters, and I'll illustrate what I mean by that. No one thing exists in a vacuum. It all exists as an interconnected web of the story, the adventure, the quest, whatever it is. I made this mistake so many times early on, and it leaves you backpedaling and doing damage control when something ends up being way harder than you wanted it to be because you let go, oh, well, it's supposed to be a challenging final boss encounter. So I make the final boss like really challenging, but I make the final boss really challenging basically for PCs with all of their resources at their disposal because and I don't think my instinct was really off on this. It just took some adjusting. So you say, okay, you have some big bad evil guy. That's the end bad guy of a adventure,
Hmm.
or let alone a campaign. Big bad evil guy is not just going to sit in a room by himself waiting to confront you, right? Or waiting for you to confront him. He's likely got minions, he's likely got traps, he's likely got all sorts of things at his disposal to weaken you before you get to him. So, his challenge level ought to be commensurate with the PCs that arrive at that door and not a fresh band of PCs because there's so many times that you kind of shoot yourself in the foot if you do this, which is to say, you make it challenging and then whoopsie, just a couple of the encounters in the gauntlet to get to this end bad guy didn't go as well as you thought they would. The PCs are a little more beat up, a little more depleted on resources, and then suddenly when they come in to fight the big bad evil guy, they're all kinds of fucked up. And it should be challenging, but then it's like they're just so battered up that they're going to get the shit kicked out of them, and then you're going to have to be scrambling to try to find like a way to kind of give them an escape hatch. And when you give players an escape hatch, it really robs them of the heroic victory. And it starts to, over the course of a campaign, erode your credibility as a GM. And so you need to be very thoughtful about where any given encounter exists within the context of the overall adventure. This is the reason that I, in recent years, have gotten away from lengthier dungeon crawls, is that they just, they seem more like a marathon and they just whittle away at the party's resources little by
Hmm.
little by little until like, if you don't want the PCs to just get TPK'd like in the first round of a final confrontation, you need to make the big bad evil guy like so soft as to get the players to question, wait, if this guy was this easy to defeat, how does he have all these minions and all of these things at his disposal to stop me from getting to him? He was pretty easy. He basically seems like a moderate level villain, but he's got the resources of like a top tier villain. And that's really subtextually your players will pick up on that, especially if you give them escape hatches. And it's one of the most difficult things to dial in as a GM, and it probably took me. I mean, if I'm being nice to myself, I would say 10 years, but probably more like 15 years to dial in.
Yeah.
Like 15 years of like tweaking with this to go, what is the appropriate challenge and context for a particular threat? I don't know if this is something you've struggled with, but man, it's been difficult for me.
So I consider, like you said, with like dungeon delving, eating away at resources and just kind of like chipping away at almost like their mental fortitude sometimes. I treat it like a kid expecting Christmas. Like 5 sleeps until Christmas. It's just like, this dungeon, don't worry about this dungeon. This is a 1 sleep dungeon at the most. That you'll only have to take one long rest in this dungeon possibly. I usually try to stick to no sleep dungeon or 1 sleep dungeon from now
Yep.
on, because I'm with you. Unless it is a dungeon that is so close to a city, town, or at least something that they can restock on some shit. Yeah, I don't want it to just eat away at them for days.
Well, and it kind of gets into what we've discussed before about the whole idea of the mega dungeon, and while it might be cool thematically, it also erodes your credibility. It erodes your credibility to assume that some sort of evil creature is just like has this giant complex littered with traps that would have taken like centuries to build and
Hmm.
orchestrate. For what purpose? Just to protect themselves from like an intrepid band of adventurers? That's really not really the way that like follows rationally. And so crafty villains are likely to kind of like stay in the shadows and like be more difficult to pin down than they are to have really challenging, or let's just say really lengthy gauntlet of challenges. Maybe they have a couple of challenges. You're protected by this fucking stone golem or whatever. It's like that. Then it's a marshaling of a lot of resources, and it's a challenging thing. So it's just like I had to dial in the concept back to the original bullet point of pacing. It's better for pacing purposes too. Fewer rooms, fewer things, but bigger challenges. And this keeps the pacing kind of moving along where it's like it's not when you encounter something, it's going to be a deal, right? You don't stop the party traveling down the road to mention that someone found a gold piece, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's pointless, right? Like if something attacks, if there's some environmental phenomenon, if the party is getting weary, or they see some peculiar phenomenon in the world, then you draw attention to it, but don't just have throwaway encounters because that just adds to a grind that whittles your PCs down. If anything, a big mega dungeon is probably better if it doesn't have if it's not linear. If it's not just like there's one big bad evil guy that you're just clearing a
Hmm.
dungeon of like tons and tons of like moderate to low challenges, and the goal is just to kind of get every bad guy out of it in the caves of chaos kind of sense.
Yeah.
There's no big bad evil guy there. You're just clearing the caves, and that can work. But if you're trying to have something that is hierarchical and raises the stakes, then you need to be thinking more linearly. Something like a Caves of Chaos that is just like you're clearing it and it's no like it's all compartmentalized and you're just doing it. Then the plot point becomes once you've cleared it there should be some sort of big thing that happens, some sort of big reward, some sort of big plot point, some sort of big reveal. If you just go in and clear a bunch of caves of bad guys and then you get a thumbs up from the king, that just seems a little flat.
Yeah, with a thumbs up.
Yeah, he's just like, good job, buddy.
Yeah, good
You
job.
are official adventurers
Well
now.
done. My last one is it kind of goes with the session zero and making sure that everybody's on board is know what you're going to do. Don't come in fresh with something that you think is cool and just jump in. This is going with my whole much how much I hate myself for bringing up Triangle Agency to fucking Dan. But I've done this in the past as well where I found a new game and I was just like this is going to be fun. I'm going to come and run it for game night tonight and not talk to the group about it and just be show up and be like, "Hey guys, we're going to do this tonight." And they're like, "Okay, sure." Uh don't do that. Even if you think they're going to have a ton of fun with it, don't do that. Bring it up at game night that night. Be like, "Hey, I picked up this new game. You guys ever want to try it sometime?" Then you might be able to work something out. But again, don't rush into things. Talk to the group because you keep doing that, you're gonna put real sour taste in their mouth, and that's no good because then you're just bound for the group to disband, and you're gonna be left alone again.
Yeah, your last one doesn't play on my last one. Um, Yours is more of a meta commentary on
Mm,
players. My final one is definitely deep into the narrative of the game, and it's that painting a vivid picture. And originally, this is the reason the pacing one was my number one, is because so many things, so many problems stem from bad pacing. But vivid description is antithetical to good pacing. And you need to think deliberately about what things you choose to describe. And the reason that this came up, and the reason it was a problem for me in my early days of, I would say even early and mid days of GMing. I like combat to feel dynamic. I like it to feel visceral, for lack of a better word, which is to say, I mistakenly believed that the more vivid combat was, the more stakes it had, and the more players enjoyed it. However, selectively deciding what things get your attention in moments of high drama as opposed to being more economic for purposes of pacing is absolutely essential, paramount, I would say. So it used to be that I would describe things in the context of battle. Every swipe of the sword got this vivid description of the blade glinting the light as it cut through the air and sunk in and dragged down from shoulder to hip on your enemy, buffeting him back, and he roils away from your blade, pulling his shield in close to him and tucking down in a defensive stance as you cause 3 points of damage.
See,
Stop that.
told you, listeners, he's not even trying right now. That's just something that happens.
Right. Just forever stop that description. Right? 3 points of damage. You slash at him with your sword and he staggers back slightly. Move on.
Or
When a
let the player finish the rest.
If the player wants to finish it, great. They often won't. And
Hmm.
their silence, again, back to my point, don't let the players totally dictate the game,
Hmm.
but their silence can speak volumes. And if they don't interject something, take that as an indicator to kind of move on, get to the
Yeah.
next round, get to the next turn. When someone is killed, when someone hits a critical hit, causes a lot of damage, dives in to use a spell to save an ally, then use those vivid descriptions,
Yeah.
like sparingly, because otherwise it will bog down your fucking combat. And yeah, it might be more vivid, but the players are kind of yawning, waiting, like, okay, like, oh, all right, are we gonna kill this guy? Like, there's stuff in the next room. I know that there's some treasure in the next
Yeah.
room and some other bad guys, and so you don't want to like crush the pacing. And so I had to learn that the hard way. That like, even though you can describe something, not every step of the boot, swipe of the sword, flare of the cape needs a vivid, colorful description. Choose your moments wisely, and it will inject necessary drama when pertinent and keep the economy of the dynamic forward thrust of a battle, because a fight should feel alive. It should feel like it has energy and electricity, and every adjective, adverb, colorful description that you inject into it is working against that. If it's painting a vivid picture for a moment that I guess the way I've started thinking about it is is if it were a Zack Snyder movie, when would the camera go into slow motion? And
Hmm.
if it's a Zack Snyder movie, the answer is probably about every 15 seconds.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, if the camera would go into slow motion to give you a vivid description of like, then you do that. But otherwise, keep it moving along. Just a few words, a few descriptors go a long way. One or maybe two sentences that are 15 to 20 words, right? You shouldn't be talking for more than 10 seconds after an attack happens to move on to the next one. And that was a hard lesson to learn, but it's tied to the idea of pacing. And I think once you frame it in the context of pacing, it made it a lot easier for me. But even once I understood, don't let the whole adventure be paced this way, I wasn't able to push down into, like, in particular, a combat level. But it also works for role playing exchanges. Role playing exchanges don't need to be like a living conversation,
Hmm.
right? Back and forth, like with the spinning your wheels. Like the characters have some knowledge and they have some pointed things they're going to say. Dialogue should be a fight, right? Attack and defend and obscure and reveal and like, and get to the meat of it, get to the other characters saying something pointed that's going to provoke the PCs into a reaction back and forth. Otherwise, it just devolves into really banal and sluggish small talk or kind of
Hmm.
like nonsense. But for combat, it's even more pronounced. So,
All right, I got nothing left. You got anything? One more to say or anything, David?
no, that was my last point. But yeah, hopefully anybody listening to this can take a few of these lessons
Yeah.
of our careers and learn to incorporate them as cautionary tales of why you don't want to go down those paths. Even just at a high level, I think it could be informative for newer GMs, especially.
Yeah. Hey, let us know. Write in inside the GM studio at gmail.com. You got anything that you've learned through your maybe long years of playing, short years of playing? Or maybe you can just ask us if we want to talk about something. Give us a topic. We love talking about shit. Obviously, we just talked about how much David loves to talk about it, and you just heard him talk about a whole bunch of shit, and that's what he does. That's why we have him here. That's why we love him. Send us something. Give us something good. Or, just compliment us. Tell us that we're doing shit, even. We don't care. Give us something. Give us something to. Because if you tell us that we're shit, we'll just say, hey, this guy told us we were shit. Fuck them on the next episode. But I think. Oh, I would talk about how our schedule's changing coming up, but too late now for this week. For Inside the GM Studio, I've been your host, Matt.
And I am David.